book of Revelation. We're going to get back to our study of Revelation this morning. It's good to have our visitors with us today. I hope that you have felt welcome. I hope that you feel the presence of God with us today. The week before last, I had to go and get a nerve block done, and I had an interesting experience. I had to sit at this desk while this lady asked me a whole bunch of questions and was filing my information into the computer and all that. And I noticed on the desk, though, she had a book there by David Jeremiah. He's a good preacher. I like listening to him. And I asked her, what's your book about? And she said, it's about the book of Revelation. It's about the end time events and all that. And I said, really? I didn't tell her I was a preacher. I said, well, at our church on Sunday mornings in worship, we've been studying through the book of Revelation. And she said, really? You know, churches don't do that. Why don't churches do that? I said, I don't know. She said, well, you must have a good preacher. And I said, well, I'll tell you one thing. He is absolutely right about absolutely everything he said. And she kept on with the questions. And then she said, what is your place of employment, or who's your employer? I said, Unity Baptist Church. And she didn't say anything. She said, so how much are they paying you to say these things about your preaching? We had a really good conversation. She was telling me about a lot of the things that she's been learning. And she's an older lady, and she said, I don't know why I waited so long to learn these things, but I wish that I would have learned them sooner. And the gist of the conversation was that even though this is a book about a future day event, it has present day benefits. I want to show you something that we didn't look at before. Revelation chapter 1 and verse 3. Revelation 1 and verse 3. Blessed is he who reads and those who hear the words of the prophecy and heed the things which are written in it, for the time is near. Now what is that? That is a blessing that God promises to those who read and understand the book of Revelation. Now I bring all this up to you because I understand that preaching through the book of Revelation in Sunday morning worship service is not normal. That's not the typical thing that you hear at churches on Sunday morning. I understand that, and I understand that some of it is difficult, and I understand that some of it is confusing, and I also understand that if you don't have a mature appetite for the Word of God, that some of it may be uninteresting. But there is a promise of blessing for those who read and understand the book of Revelation. Now, how can the church possess the book of Revelation blessing if the church doesn't preach through the book of Revelation? I don't know about you, but I want the blessing of the book of Revelation. And I want you to know that I feel very blessed and fortunate to be in a church where many of you have expressed to me that this is helping you, that you're enjoying this, and that you're glad we're doing this. And I'm glad that it's that way, and I know that maybe in some other churches it might be difficult to do something like this. I'll tell you the other thing about the book of Revelation. I read an article one time that said that Christianity is fighting for relevancy in a world that says it is no longer relevant. And so somehow we've got to fight to make Christianity relevant again. We don't have to fight to make Christianity relevant. It is relevant all by itself. It is the only way to heaven. That's the most relevant thing about Christianity. But there's several other things that makes it relevant, and here's one of them. Turn on the news, and what are you going to hear? Panic, chaos, confusion, hopelessness, all that kind of stuff. You'll hear a bunch of people saying, I don't know what this world is coming to. Well, we do, don't we? We are the one group of people on planet Earth who do know where this whole thing is headed, and I'd say that makes us very relevant. Now, go to chapter 6. That's where we finished up last time we were in the book of Revelation. We looked at the sixth judgment seal. For those that haven't been with us, Jesus is taking back possession of the earth, and the way he does that initially is through the tribulation. And the way the tribulation unfolds is that he has handed the title deed to the earth. And it is sealed with how many seals? 7 seals. And as he unrolls the scroll and breaks each seal, as each seal is broken, more judgment is unleashed on the earth. Now, last time we finished with the 6th seal, and then we come to chapter 7. Now, we're going to do something a little different today. One of the things I've tried to do as we've gone through this is prevent repetition. I don't want to do that. Well, you come to chapter 7, and in other words, what I'm saying is I've tried not to talk about things in the first chapters that we're going to wind up talking about again in the later chapters, is what I'm trying to say. You come to chapter 7, we're introduced to the 144,000 Jewish witnesses, and then we see the massive outbreak of worldwide salvations. It's an evangelistic campaign like the world has never seen. Now, we could go ahead and talk about it now in chapter 7, which to do that will require us to look at some of the chapters later on to get the full picture. And so then later on, we'll look at those chapters again and then have to look back at chapter 7. So what we're going to do, we're going to move past chapter 7 for now and go to chapter 8. That's where we're going to be at today. And in chapter 8, he picks back up talking about the tribulation. To set the stage, in the sixth seal, what happened? In the judgment of the sixth seal, what happened? God unleashed this worldwide earthquake. The earthquake, the breaking of the crust all over the earth that caused volcanic eruptions, all the burning and the smoke and all that filled the sky, made the sun go black, made the moon turn red. There was a bombardment of asteroids that pummeled the earth. That's what happened in the sixth seal. And people's reaction was, first of all, for the first time ever, everybody in the world acknowledged not only the existence of God, the one true God, but they also acknowledged that it was God causing all of these judgments. And then it says that out of fear and terror, it says they began hiding in the caves. So that's what's going on right now. In the world, people are hiding in caves, sheltering from the judgment that's being unleashed. And then this happens, chapter 7, verse 1. After this I saw four angels standing at the four corners of the earth, holding back the four winds of the earth, so that no wind would blow on the earth, or on the sea, or on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the rising of the sun, having the seal of the living God. And he cried out with a loud voice to the four angels to whom it was granted to harm the earth and the sea, saying, Do not harm the earth, or the sea, or the trees, until we have sealed the bondservants of our God on their foreheads. Now, here's what this means. God has hit the pause button. Temporarily, God is pausing the judgment that he is unleashing on the earth. So, the earthquake stopped. The asteroids stop. All that stuff temporarily stops. And then this happens. Chapter 8, verse 1. When the Lamb broke the seventh seal. Now remember, who is the Lamb? It's Jesus. He has broke the seventh seal. When he did that, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. And I saw the seven angels who stand before God, and seven trumpets were given to them. Another angel came and stood at the altar holding a golden censer, and much incense was given to him, so that he might add it to the prayers of all the saints on the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints went up before God out of the angel's hand. Then the angel took the censer and filled it with the fire of the altar, and threw it to the earth, and there followed peals of thunder and sounds and flashes of lightning and an earthquake. And the seven angels who had the seven trumpets prepared themselves to sound them. All right. The seventh seal was broken. And what is the judgment of the seventh seal? It opens up to the seven trumpets. All right. Here's something that will help cut down on the confusion as you study through the book of Revelation. You have basically three series of judgments. You have the seven seal judgments, you have the seven trumpet judgments, and you have the seven bowl judgments. The seventh seal judgment opens up to the seven trumpet judgments. So you got seven angels, each angel is given a trumpet. And just like when each seal was broken, judgment was unleashed in the same way. When each seal is blown by each angel, another judgment is unleashed. And that's what we're going to see today. We're going to look at, I'm actually going to cover a whole chapter, and I'm not going to preach longer than I normally do. We're going to look at the first four trumpets. And here's what's going on in these first four trumpet judgments. There ain't no fancy way to say it. God is wreaking havoc on the earth. God is destroying the planet Earth, and that's what you're going to see. I guess you could put it this way. In these first four trumpet judgments, you see the worst nightmare of the environmentalists come true. You realize we live in a day where, like the Bible says, people worship the creature rather than the Creator. Would you agree with me that, especially in our society, there is more respect shown towards creation than is shown towards the one who created creation. I want to share some recent news with you that I'm just going to tell you, this is one of the craziest things I've ever heard in my life. When I heard it, it about knocked me out of my chair. A law in Switzerland takes effect March 1st that bans the common cooking method of tossing live lobsters into a pot of boiling water. The practice is being outlawed because the Swiss say it is cruel and lobsters can sense pain. The new law requires a more humane death for lobsters. Here are the two humane methods the Swiss government is requiring for the killing of lobsters. Either death by electrocution, because we all know that's painless, right? Or sedate them. So next time you go to Red Lobster in Switzerland, you may have lobster that was sedated. Sedating them, submerging them in salt water, and thrusting a knife into its brain. It's very, very humane, isn't it? Now here's where it gets really crazy. The new law also gives domestic pets further protection, such as dogs can no longer be spanked for barking. Cats must have a daily visual contact with other felines. Hamsters or guinea pigs must be kept in pairs. Anyone who flushes a goldfish down the toilet is breaking the law. Now what's going to happen if you violate these laws? It says state officials will be responsible for the enforcement of these laws. Offenders will receive sentences with up to 3 years in prison. You can see it now at the guys in prison. He says, "What are you in here for?" "I killed a fish." I'm sorry. So they have in Switzerland these laws protecting lobsters and goldfish and hamsters. But here's where it gets bizarre too. They have these laws protecting these animals, but last year in Switzerland they reported over 10,000 abortions. So you've got more laws protecting animals than you do human lives. Now here we are in the United States, and we can't say a whole lot because in Massachusetts they passed a law that made it illegal to award as a prize at a state fair goldfish. Can't be giving those out as prizes. You can look this up, and it said the reason why they did this is because it dulls humanitarian feeling. So in America, we got more laws protecting goldfish than we do protecting human lives. Did you know that in recent years our government has spent up to $100 billion on supposedly preventing global warming? $100 billion. Now, call me crazy, but that money could be used to help actual human beings. Like, let's use that money to fund a program where parents are aided in adopting and providing permanent homes to one of the 675,000 children that are living in the foster care system. I think we can all agree that we live in a day where folks have just got it backwards. The creature is worshipped rather than the creator. Creation is worshipped rather than the creator. Well, when we come to these first 4 trumpet judgments, here's what God does. The creator is wreaking havoc on his own creation, sending a message to the creatures that he created to worship him instead of creation. And that's what we're going to see. Now, the way it all starts is verse 5, there is a horrific storm, and then there's another earthquake. And this earthquake opens up with the first trumpet judgment. And here's the first trumpet judgment, verse 7. The first trumpet sounded, and there came hail and fire mixed with blood, and they were thrown to the earth. And a third of the earth was burned up, and a third of the trees were burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. Now, you may think that, it's just a hailstorm. The most you can do is dent your car. Actually, I looked up and found that in India there was a hailstorm that produced hailstones that said as large as oranges. It killed 246 people. This is going to be a hailstorm, and it's going to be worldwide. From the States to China to Africa, all over the world, there's going to be chunks of ice falling from the sky. Now, just like in the 6th seal, when finally everybody realized, okay, it's God doing this, same thing's going to happen here. People are going to know that this is God, because this is not going to be your average hailstorm, because not only is hail going to be falling from the sky, what else is going to be falling? fire. Now, that's abnormal. Amen? Fire is not supposed to fall from the sky. Fire and ice together is especially not supposed to fall from the sky. And not only will there be hail falling and fire falling, it also says there will be what? Blood. Now, one of my commentaries I read said that this cannot be talking about literal blood because, quote, it has never rained blood before. Well, just like it's never naturally rained blood, it's neither naturally rained fire either. Now, why blood? Why blood? People will go outside and they will be being showered with blood. Why? I believe God is just sending another message. Remember, they've had this brief pause in the tribulation. People started coming out of the caves, returning back to their lives, trying to put their lives back together, trying to find family and friends, and then all of a sudden, boom, the earthquake, and then this. I believe God is sending them a message that it's not that the tribulation is over. It's more's coming, and it's going to get even worse. Now, the first trumpet, judgment, devastates the earth. It says 1/3 of the earth is burned up. Now, for my mind, I got to help comprehend that. I got to put it on a smaller scale. So imagine 33% of Fayette County burned up, 33% of Alabama, 33% of the country, 33% of the world is on fire. Can you imagine? Can you imagine how much smoke is in the sky? Can you imagine how hard it is to breathe? You know, remember there's been this big time famine across the planet. Obviously, people have gone above and beyond trying to plant more crops. Well, 33% of those have been burned up. It also says that 1/3 of the trees have been burned up. That includes fruit trees that people have been trying to live off of. And then it says that not 1/3 of all the green grass, but how much of the green grass? All of it. All of the green grass is burned up. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? What that means is if we have any of the guys in our youth group that are looking for a biblical way to escape yard duties this summer, there's a biblical method right there. All the green grass. Now, is all grass green all over the world all the time? No. Winter comes, it lies dormant. I believe what he's showing us here is that in areas of the world where the grass is supposed to be growing, areas where you go and you could say, well, at least there's grass growing. Not even that. God is absolutely burning this world up. He is filling it with smoke. He's charring it black. And then the second trumpet, verse 8, the second angel sounds the second trumpet. And something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea. And 1/3 of the sea became blood. And 1/3 of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died. And 1/3 of the ships were destroyed. Now, what in the world